This podcast provides discussions on sensitive topics that may trigger some listeners. Content in this podcast should not be construed as medical or doctor-recommended advice. If any listener has a medical concern, consult with a registered professional.
Dear Dysfunctional Diaries.
No, I don't think anorexia is something that ever leaves.
Yeah.
Like physically, I'm not anorexic by weight anymore.
Yeah.
But like the mental side of anorexia will be with me forever. I actually know the exact moment that I started to take control of my weight, and it's a really stupid story. If I can change someone's life by just putting myself out there and just putting that video of me or that picture of me that I hate looking at and I hate seeing, if it motivates someone else to do better, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Because you also have ADHD.
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. Obviously, a big thing of ADHD is hyperfixation.
Yes.
Which, you focus on some random things.
Sometimes I'll hyperfixate on foods, which can be a good thing, but then I'll also, like, if I don't want to eat, and then I get stuck in that mindset of I don't want to eat, and then I fixate on like, yeah, I'm not going to eat this. At the start of this year, I'd lost about 7-8 kilos because I went for a patch where I really struggled with my eating, and came into the gym, and literally I hadn't had like the ability to step into the gym for like a month because I just had been so scared to go in there. And the first thing one of them said to me is,
How are you?
I'm great.
This is my second episode. I was saying to Dan, the first episode of Dan literally started with me going, "This is my first episode." Like, this is the first episode to my podcast. So, Deon, darling, my Deon, darling Deon.
Yeah.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I just listened to a new Headache song with Deon Wayne, so I'm pretty gassed.
Headaches and Tea on Wayne.
Yeah, they made a song.
That's a really weird pairing. Okay,
It is.
right. So, we're here today
We are.
to talk about eating and other things, but primarily eating.
Eating the mic.
Eating the mic stand. It is a race. So, not that I'm going to dive straight into it, but I am going to dive straight into it. I have notes.
Right.
So, if you don't mind me saying, because this is what this podcast is about, would you say you have or do suffer from anorexia? Because I don't know how to word that.
I'd say I don't know. Like I'd say I had. No, I don't think anorexia is something that ever leaves.
Yeah.
Like physically, I'm not anorexic by weight anymore.
Yeah.
But like the mental side of anorexia will be with me forever.
And is that the same with bulimia?
100%. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got you. Okay. No, I wanted to get that clear because I didn't know if it was a thing of like have or had.
No, I mean, like, it's like if I was to go to the doctors, like I'm not an anorexic weight anymore. So like I'm not considered like physically anorexic, but obviously I'm still I'd say that I'm a recovering anorexic now.
Okay. So the mental aspect will always be there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But the physical has dissipated, which is good.
Yeah.
So that's actually where I wanted to start, really. So with anorexia is different for everyone,
Yeah.
as much as it is defined by a couple bullet points on the NHS website, which I didn't look at, of course. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
What are sort of the symptoms that you did or do struggle with anorexia or bulimia, as in sort of the two combined?
Anorexia is just like you just have a horrendous relationship with food. Like food isn't seen as something you enjoy. It's more seen as like something that you need to live, and like you'll find any way possible to not have that food. So it's like I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like you want to control your weight, so, and like that's something that you want control of, so you just don't eat pretty much until you are extremely unhealthy.
See, the two of them combined sort of makes a pretty dangerous pairing.
Well,
Because
yeah.
anorexia is literally you don't want to eat food.
Yeah.
And then bulimia is any food you have,
You then
you either
purge, and you
poo
get
it
rid of
out or regurgitate it.
Yeah, something like that.
Because some people take laxatives
Yeah.
with it, which I again didn't research. So there's obviously the avoiding eating in public aspect,
Yes.
and then there's the exercise aspect.
Yeah.
Now, with you were how old when you first sat and thought, okay, this is serious?
I actually didn't until I thought this is serious. I never thought it was serious. No matter what happened, I was always just like, oh, it's not that serious. Until I'd say 2020 was when I actually took a step back, because I'd taken some pictures of myself, and I can't remember what I was meant to do with them, but I had to take these pictures of myself, and I remember just looking at these pictures, and I just thought, like, I look so unhealthy in these, and like this was when I'd started to take like a massive interest in like fitness and things like that, and I'd seen like what your like healthy standard is, which is just an unrealistic body standard anyway. But I'd seen that, and I looked at these photos of myself, and I was just like, I am so skinny and unhealthy, and like basically just like I was not in a good way at all. So, and like I was even realizing, because at the time I was working, before I'd worked in a builder's merchant, and when I worked there, I just remember like anything that I was ever asked to do that required any sort of strength, I just struggled so much, and it would just take it out of me, or like anything like that, anything physical, I'd struggle with. So, and I was very injury prone as a child, but now that I think about it, I'm like, that's probably because I wasn't developing how I was meant to, because I wasn't getting all of the nutrients, everything that I needed.
So you would have been about my age.
Yeah, when I realised.
Yeah, when you realised.
Started probably back in like 2012 though. So that was when like if I actually.
So you would have been 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It does. It's interesting how far it goes back, because you think something like that, that's so damaging,
Yeah.
a 10-year-old wouldn't experience.
Yeah, I actually know the exact moment that I started to take control of my weight, and it's a really stupid story. But the exact moment was I was in my old house, and we were all using the Wii Fit, and I stepped on the Wii Fit, and I was severely underweight at this point anyway, and it said that I was overweight, and that was when my bulimia started, was because I remember it said that I was overweight, and like everyone was like, oh, laughing, joke, blah, blah, blah. I remember that was the first time ever that I went upstairs and I made myself be sick, and that was how it started.
Nintendo.
Yeah. Should sue Nintendo.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that was literally, when I actually am 100% honest about it, I know that is the exact moment that it started. Because from that point, that was when I got really bad with my eating. I stopped eating. Like, that was when I literally took control of everything.
And do you think that's what it is?
A control thing? I think initially it was, yeah. But now it's just something that, like, is so ingrained in my mind that it's just, like, there.
It's almost a habit.
Yeah. I mean, it's now, like, I have sort of a lot more control over it. Like, sometimes when I'm very emotional and things like that, like, my go-to is just to not eat. And, like, I just don't eat because I have no appetite. So I won't have an appetite, so I won't want to eat. But then I'll know I need to, so I'll probably have like a packet of crisps in a day, and that's about it. And then when I was at home, like I used to find ways to hide shit and like not eat, just so. Like I remember there was times, like looking back on it, like my mum was clearly trying to like help, but she would like, I'd be having dinner and like I wouldn't eat it. And then she would basically make me sit at the table until I finished my food. And I would sit there and I would literally cry. I would say that I like couldn't eat. I would feel so sick, and I would literally have to sit there. I'd sometimes sit there for like an hour, hour and a half, and just like cry and like not wanting to eat because I genuinely like couldn't bring myself to do it. But because it's not something that you can see really, and well, you can see the weight, but you can't see like the mental side of it. Like
Do you think she almost just treated that as like a kid having a temper tantrum?
Kind of. I think she just thought that like she knew that I was underweight. So
Yeah.
you could see that I was underweight. So I think in my mum's mind, she was just like, eat the dinner that I've made you because you need it, and then not really like
Understanding the mental side of it.
Yeah. And I remember like that, looking back on it, I remember that just made things like 10 times worse. But obviously that was never her intention. But it's just like that outside that third party point of view when you're not that person, so you don't understand it.
I think some parents would also just so much struggle with the idea of their 10-year-old having that.
Yeah.
Of thinking, oh my God, like, not that that is what they should do at all, but I can imagine if I was a parent and my 10-year-old was saying that they were anorexic or were struggling to eat food.
Yeah.
As much as you have to sit there and accept it, it would be soul crushing to do so for a 10-year-old. It's obviously what you need to do. I'm not trying to say that there was any wrong or right in either scenario, but I can imagine how hard it would be.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Obviously, what you were going through was the harder side of it.
Yeah.
But what would you say was there anyone when you were younger, since you said it wasn't really the family aspect of it that helped, did you have anyone who you did confide in?
No. I literally went through it all myself and never told anyone, never like did anything, like no one really knew how much I was struggling, and I've only really opened up about it in the last, I want to say year or two. I'd probably say since I moved across the country from near Brighton to Leeds and came to uni, like I was just a bit like I'd started the gym, I'd started to have a better relationship with food, I'd started to like put on more weight and look healthier and feel better about myself and more confident. And then I would just like, because I'd been through it, I would see the signs, like I'd pick up instantly on like other people that were clearly struggling and weren't saying things. And I just sort of realised like someone's got to be that person that's just going to bite the bullet and just be like, you know what, yeah, I am a guy that struggled with anorexia and bulimia, because it's always like a bad thing. You always get called lanky or skinny, or it's bad to be all of these things. But
yeah, see, I wouldn't say I was an anorexic kid, but like I think it is also, I think I would actually say it's less spoken about with guys.
1,000,000%.
Like I've literally got a study here. So a study by Walden Behavioral Care in the US, the United States, found that men are 3 times more likely to suffer from body dysmorphic disorders than women.
Yeah.
But I would say in schools, across social media, in things like film and TV, it's more represented that women suffer from it.
Oh, 100%.
But the body standards for men and women are still the same. You still see men in movies like a Chris Hemsworth who's gone through 5 months of training and he's doing that water dieting thing where your muscles sort of look bigger and it's the same for women. But I'd just say that guys actually haven't had that level of acknowledgement yet.
Yeah, I think and the thing is as well, like I think now especially with women, it's like it's not even just like girls that are anorexic, because when it was for a long time, it was like the unachievable beauty standard of like a really slim figure, and like a lot of girls would like not eat and like try and achieve that figure. But now you can have like celebrities who are on the other side where they're a lot bigger and they're a lot heavier, and it in a way it could be like maybe they have a binge eating disorder or something, but they're a larger weight and it's clearly not a healthy weight. But you get all of the like, especially social media, it's like, oh my God, you're so brave, things like that, because they're confident and they're posting things that are usually like frowned upon or like isn't like a societal norm. And it's like, oh, you're so brave for sharing your story, something like that. But then you think there's like, if you think about it, there's barely any male celebrities, especially in sport, that you could name that have come out about eating disorders, about anorexia, bulimia, anything like that. And like, But if you think about female celebrities or female athletes or things like that, you can instantly think about like so many that have been named for it or like supported for it. And it is crazy when you look at the difference.
Yeah, but I'd almost think that in a sense, if I would say I was in a film, which you never know, but if I went into one and suddenly I starred in this film and everyone started calling me brave for starring in a film, I'd be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I'd be like, why am I brave? I'd be like, I'm just doing my job. My job doesn't require that level of bravery. Obviously, I can't speak because I'm not in that situation, but I'd sit back and think, well, why am I brave? Why do I have to be brave?
Yeah.
Like, why can't this just be me doing my job and everyone just accept that? Like, if I was doing my job, I just think, why do you have to consider my weight?
Yeah.
Why do you have to... Because obviously, you are going to have that in especially media industries where it is obviously heavily attractiveness centric.
Yeah.
Where you have to be some sort of level of attractive, or you have to be, at least to a degree, there has to be some sort of level of attractiveness, you know. And I do agree with the fact that in most cases, men do still just have to at least be in some decent shape.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's even like, it's not as bad anymore, but if you look at like the start of like when Love Island first became big and it first became a thing, if you look at all of the guys on there, they're all like...
On steroids.
Yeah, well, you can't accuse them, but yeah, they're all they're like large, like huge muscles, six pack abs,
you have to
like
be
that.
ripped.
Yeah, and like now you see it a bit more, but you'd never see like the standard everyday kind of person on there.
Yeah,
because it's all about how they look, and again that's just reinforcing that thing. But then you'd see like all the time over social media in papers and everything about the like how like girls on covers shouldn't be like these slim figures because it's trying to push that unattainable beauty standard for young girls. But then you never see anything about guys. It's like I barely know anyone that's ever known about it, but you know, so England cricket, Freddie Flintoff.
Yeah, he's anorexic.
Yeah, he's anorexic and bulimic, and like unless you've ever looked into anything to do with that, like he's one of the very few male sports athletes that has actually come out about that, and that he literally became that way because when he was a bit heavier and when he had put on weight, people like papers were posting about him, like articles about him being fat and calling him like Fat Flintoff and shit like that. And that literally caused him to have an eating disorder, but it was never a thing. And it was completely fine for them to body shame him in the papers and things like that. But that actually caused him to have an eating disorder.
Yeah, because you do have to think, in a way, like, imagine if you had that for a female athlete.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. I'm not trying to say that it's easy for a female athlete at all, because it's not.
No.
But I think it's just more reported on.
Yeah, 100%.
Then I'm not saying it's easier. I'm not saying it's more accepted. I'm just saying it's more reported on that women suffer from it.
Yeah, 100%.
Instead of men, because as I said, Freddie Flintoff, I cannot think of a single other male athlete who suffers from it.
Yeah.
Other than Freddie Flintoff, I only know that because he went on the Jonathan Ross show and talks about it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I know.
That's the
like,
thing.
I watched it years ago, and in fairness, if you hadn't just brung that up, I would never have named him because I'd forgotten him.
Yeah.
But for you, from when you were younger until now, what do you think led to the transition that you've managed to make now? Because you've obviously, to give context to anyone not listening, just audio, Deon is not a really stick thin guy. He's pretty built. He goes gym, and so what do you think suddenly? What was that? If there was one, that switch that flipped?
It was when I looked at those photos of myself and I realised how unhealthy I looked, and then it was I started to like enjoy sport a bit more, like do a bit more research into sport, things like that, and then I basically started to go to the gym. And when I started to go, like I first started off in my garden because I was too scared to go into a gym because I was in my mind like I couldn't go in there looking how I did. So I started off in my garden, and then trained in my mate's shed for a little bit. And then I started to get into that mindset of like, there was a point in time in my life where I just sort of turned around and I was just like, why do I care what everyone else thinks? And I was just like, the more I care about what people think, the more it's going to like put me down. And when I sort of started to think like that, that was when, like, even when I first started, I would take like videos and pictures of that. And I didn't really share like the pictures and videos of like the start until more recently. But like after like 3-4 months when I'd been training in my garden, I'd put on a little bit of weight, and like I'd seen a bit of progress because I started off at 54 kilos and I was 6'1" at the time. And if you just even, I don't agree with BMI at all, but if you put that into BMI, it's severely underweight, because BMI doesn't take into account muscle mass. It's just weight, which that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, like technically for my weight, I am pretty high up there on the BMI scale, and I'm not a big guy.
Yeah,
like I'm all right, but
yeah.
I'm not a big dude, so.
But yeah, and then it was just like, I don't know, like as I started to post a bit more, there was actually someone, his name's Sean Kofi, and he's now like gone clear on Instagram, like everything like that. And I started to, when I first started to post like the videos of me in my garden, I would like tag these influencers that I'd look up to and things like that. And it was like Mr. Olympia Chris Bumstead. I tagged him in one of my posts, and it was like my 5th or 6th post. It was me in the garden, little 54 kilo me, doing like bicep curls, like maybe a straight bar, and it was like a tiny little weight. I think it was like 6-7 kilos. And I tagged him in my post, and he liked my post. And I remember when I saw that, I was just like, I saw it and I was just like, although like, you know, he probably didn't acknowledge it, he probably just saw a tag and liked it. But that's looking at the negative. I saw that then and I was just like this person that I look up to, who I just think like they train, they clearly like diet very well. Like obviously, like it's never come out. He'll never like admit whether he's natural or not, things like that. But like the fact that I see someone with that much dedication and see the before and after of them could like a photo or a video of me when I'm just starting off my journey, it was just like things like that. I would just be like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'd keep going and I want to keep going. And I think just the support of people that I never even thought would support me, and like how small interactions like that changed my life. Like I remember Sean just used to DM me and just used to like be like, how's it going, things like that, and just used to chat about it when I first started, and used to give me advice, things like that, and it genuinely just like made me want to keep going. And then when I started posting, it was when I would get messages from people, because this was when I started to put myself out there a bit more, because I think I was starting to get to like 65, 70 kg here. So I'd put on about 15 to like 10, 15 kilos at this point. So you could see a very visible difference. And this was like, I want to say just over a year and a half in. And I posted a video, and it was of me right at the start, and it was my first year progress. And the video went like slightly viral. And I remember like I was getting messages from people or comments saying like, this has really inspired me, like I'm going to give it a go. Or like I'd get messages from some people sometimes saying like, I've been following your account for a while and like I've seen your progress, and they're like I just thought I'd let you know, like I started because I saw this and like it's actually changed my life. And then that was when I started to just be like, you know what, I don't care. Like if I can change someone's life by just putting myself out there and just putting that video of me, or that picture of me that I hate looking at and I hate seeing, if it motivates someone else to do better, then I'm more than happy to do that. And I think that's the thing that's kept me going as well, is I do it for me, I do it for myself, but knowing that there's a possibility that someone might see a video and it might change their life. Like that was what changed mine, was I saw videos and things of people and how they changed. And Joe Fazer, he used to be like a massive inspiration to me. Like I looked up to him, I saw his YouTube video, and
That's not the boxer, is it?
no, No, he's.
I swear there is a boxer called Joe Frazier.
I think, from ages ago.
I was sat there like, when did he make a post?
But no, he did a massive transformation, and it's like I saw those videos, and I remember when I first started posting on TikTok, like people would be like, "Why are you doing that?" And you'd get your traditional like, "Oh, that's stupid," like you're like wet, you're like dickhead, like things like that. Like people would just absolutely rinse me for it, but. I'd feel like shit when that happened, but then I'd then get that one message saying like I was so scared to go into the gym, but I saw your videos saying like don't care what anyone else thinks, like look at the change I've made because I took that first step, and they're like, and that made me do it. I'm just like, you know what, it's all worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing that keeps me going now, and it's like that's something that I want to do as well. I want to talk more about it, and like that's why I was
we will get into what your future plans are. I will bring it up, but it's I think that's actually such a small percentage because social media actually helped you, and I think that is so different to what most people. Let's just turn that noise off. I think that's so different to what most people have experienced.
I think it's because a lot of people with social media. The second that you get a bad comment, someone will let that ruin their day.
But in the same sense, I think it's social media contributes, I'd say a solid, like well over 50% to people's consumption of beauty standards.
100%.
And I'd say it's interesting because there's something I researched where it's called the horoscope effect.
Yeah.
And it's when a person believes that generalized information presented in something like a horoscope, so like a Gemini is this or whatever is that, specifically applies to them, even if it's just generic. So say, for instance, I'm a Taurus, I go into the newspaper and I read that in this week I'm going to have something amazing happen to me. I think social media, when it comes to beauty standards and when it comes to things like body dysmorphic conditions, people can it almost can help some people, but I almost think it also does generate it for some because 100%. they'll see the idea of it'll be a person who suffers from anorexia or suffers from bulimia or any other dysmorphic condition, and it'll be them listing what's going on. And that person will sit there and go, oh, well, yesterday I hardly ate anything. And then it will sort of seep. It puts that idea into their head of, a horoscope effect of, oh, well, I fit under that category. What else do I fit under? And then suddenly they think more about it and they start fixating on it. So what would you say in not retaliation, but in against that, because it obviously has not done that for you?
100% depends on how you consume social media. Like if I hadn't have posted on it myself, that is the only reason it helped me. And the only reason it helped me is because I wasn't someone who like edited my photos. I never lied about anything on social media. Like I even have some videos where I'll film myself in like perfect lighting with a pump where I look a lot better than like very like substandard lighting, no pump, and you can see the difference and it's very clear the difference. But I would post that on social media and I'd be like, don't believe everything you see on social media. And it depends how you consume it, because if you just see everything on there and you take it at face value, then 100% so negative. Like you have so many people, especially in the fitness industry, that have these amazing genetics or are clearly enhanced and taking things to aid how they look, and they're these standards that aren't naturally achievable, but they'll then be like, oh yeah, I'm completely natural, like I've never taken anything. And then that is horrendous, because that side of the social media, if you just consume that and you just think, oh, this is standard, like why do I not look like that, why can't I do that from this, then it's really negative. But I think the only reason, I think if I hadn't have posted myself and got that positive feedback and known how it helped other people, then I think I would have fallen into the category that you just said of just seeing what's on there and consuming it, because that's what's popular. like you get these like 0.1% genetics that like look amazing all year round, like are absolutely unbelievable, and they're the people that everyone wants to be like and they want to look like. So they follow them, they idolize them, they push them, and then these people, like, all of a sudden they're getting that recognition and things for that, and they're not then going to come out and be like, oh yeah, by the way, like, you're never going to be able to achieve this naturally.
Well, I think a massive person who did do that, which I know he's a bit of a joke, but Liver King.
Yeah.
He preached that he was all natural, and he did it by eating this bizarre shit that was like, let me eat a liver and a heart and a whatever. And it came out that he was taking everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And he sort of, in his, classic apology video, was just sat there going, sorry, liver family, I just wanted you to like me. It's like, well, don't make a whole persona around a lie,
Yeah.
Like, you're literally influencing people. There was like 6-year-old kids who would watch him and they'd be like, oh, I can get to that. And then they can't because, when they grow up, and even, obviously 6-year-olds aren't in the gym, but like when you get to like sort of young teenage, sort of 14, 15, that's when I started, it's, you think, oh my God, I can get to that. I know he eats weird stuff, but I can get to that because he's just eating. Like, he's not enhancing himself.
And then you get really disheartened when you can't. And then that's when you get that body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
You get those things that come from it, like the anorexia, the bulimia, because you're like, well, why can't I be like that? And then disheartens you. You give up. So
yeah, you just give in to the whole idea of it. But obviously your current life is going a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely do still struggle.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes, I have a very, I'd say strange, but something that actually helped me massively, and all of my friends have seen it, is like, sometimes now when I have meals, I will put on a song, and I have one song that I play every single time.
Every
I
time
have a
we eat
shake
dinner and everything.
every time I eat.
Yeah.
And for the duration of that song, I won't talk, I won't interact, nothing. I won't go on my phone. I will literally just focus on eating or focus on drinking my shake or whatever it is. So that's something that I found like helped me massively. But obviously that's creating another unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
But in my mind, although I know that it's still not the healthiest way.
It's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. It's like either don't eat or have a way that I can do it that, although sometimes I'm not going to be able to use that, like, I can still do it sometimes, and that's better to me. And that's helped me get to where I am now. Like, I mean, it's a strange way, but it works for me.
I'd say it's definitely, it's so much better when you have somebody in front of you who, there's benefits to somebody who's actually still, it's affecting them. And actually someone speaking about it into a microphone and telling people, I actually do some weird shit, but it works. And sometimes it's not a perfect avenue to getting better, but there is an avenue.
Yeah.
And so I think, especially with mental sort of conditions like that, there's never a perfect avenue because it's all mental.
Yeah.
And so there's no chance of anyone being able to do it in just...
No,
let me just
overnight,
follow this guide, because it's different for everyone. Everyone has a different mentality. Everyone has a different sort of severity of it. So they can't necessarily just have that, because, I think people a lot of the time, and you may agree or disagree, focus when it comes to anorexia and bulimia, nobody instantly thinks, oh, it's habitual things, as in habits. No. Everyone just goes straight to, oh, so they're really skinny.
Yeah.
Oh, so they throw up. They go to the visually obvious, not the emotionally obvious.
Yeah, and it's the generic, like, you're told, well, why don't you just eat? Or why don't you just not make yourself sick?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really trying to do.
And it's like someone will be like, well, why don't you just eat more then? And then that's when I sit there and I think, you haven't seen the times when I've sat at that dinner table for an hour and a half with this food in front of me, absolutely breaking down. And like every time I've put a bit of food in my mouth, my body has like gagged and like physically rejected this food because I've got myself in that much of a state that I don't want to eat, that my body actually just starts to reject it itself. And it's like, even now sometimes like I'll be eating and I'll be there and I'll be like, I really don't want this right now, but I'm very, very lucky with my mindset and how I'm a very resilient person. I'm very good at just
That's
like,
putting it lightly, I'd say, but yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, like I'm very good at basically like taking control of a situation in my mind and just being like, I'm going to push through this, like no matter how difficult it gets, no matter what it is. I know that like if I can tell myself I can do it, that I will do it. And I'm very, very lucky with that now. And that's something that has helped me massively. And I think if I didn't have that mindset at all, I would still really struggle to this day.
Yeah.
But there is still some days where I don't eat and
Yeah.
I won't eat, or every now and then, like when shit hits the fan and I feel really down, like, or something happens, like I might make myself be sick. And I found that sometimes now, like there's ways around it, and it's like I've got my close friends now that know about it, and they know about it to some extent, but like if it's like even like to you, like until today I've never said to you, yeah, by the way, actually started because I got told I was overweight on a Wii Fit.
No,
Because
no.
it to me it's just like, that's such an embarrassing thing to say, but then I'm just like, at the same time I'm like, well, it's not.
In some ways, I'd say it's not. It's never embarrassing. I understand that it is.
Yeah.
I understand that in your head it is, but dealing with something like that is never embarrassing. I mean, I know that you've gone through your fair share of hardships, to say it lightly.
Yeah.
But how would you say? Because obviously, because you also have ADHD.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Just for my entertainment as well. How come you haven't had a test to show your ADHD? What happened when you went for a test to get ADHD checked?
I walked out. I got bored, and I was sat there in the waiting room, and it had gone past the time that I was meant to be called in, and I was literally like looking around, like doing everything that I could, and I was trying to make myself stay, but I just couldn't. I couldn't be there, so I just left.
So basically, you couldn't sit still to wait for the result, so you ended up leaving.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that pretty much tells you everything you probably need to know about you having ADHD. But obviously a big thing of ADHD is hyperfixation.
Yes.
Which, you know, you focus on some random things.
I do.
But with the hyperfixation and the eating, do you think that it makes it even more difficult?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like sometimes I'll hyperfixate on foods, which can be a good thing, but then I'll also, like, if I don't want to eat, and then I get stuck in that mindset of I don't want to eat, and then I fixate on like, yeah, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat at all. Or I'll have foods that I know, or drinks. There was something I used to do, which I now actually very, very rarely have, because I know if I have it in the house, I have the ability to do that, is apple juice. I used to drink like a whole litre of apple juice, like as quick as I could, and everything you've eaten, it just makes you shit it all out. And that's why now I don't buy apple juice, because I know if I have it in the house, I have that access to do that. And it's like, that's a way of purging that's untraceable, because I've not taken laxatives, so you can't tell that I've taken a laxative. I've not stuck my fingers down my throat, so if I'm going to a doctor's, there's no sign of like inflammation or anything in my throat. And yeah, I'm still losing weight, even if I'm eating.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's things like that that are untraceable. But now, like, I did go for a stage of hyperfixating on having apple juice with every meal. But then I knew that I had that ability to do that. And like, I did do it a few times, and now I just don't buy it.
Yeah. Because I read book, funny enough, about habits.
Mm.
And, you know, body dysmorphic stuff is heavily focused around habit building.
Yeah.
It's because whether you think about it or not, it's about actually sitting there and creating bad habits, because it's all about a cue, it's all about then a craving, and then it's a response, and then you get the reward.
Yeah.
But the book that I read was sort of talking about how you go against that, and with the cue side of it, which is obviously the first step in making any habit,
Yeah.
you just nulled that, which is the correct thing to do. You just got rid of the apple juice.
Yeah.
Because the cue is obviously you eating, so you think, oh, well, I have apple juice.
Yeah.
And so getting rid of that just completely nulls the rest of that habit, which is what you should be doing, which is good. But I'm curious, in fairness, with the eating side of it and with the hyperfixation side of it, how has that first of all, and how has it affected sort of like relationships? Like, it can be friends, it can be actual, like, you know, partners.
Yeah.
Does it affect it?
100%.
Has it, or, you know, does it still?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, the eating's always something that is hard to tell someone, and like, especially when you pick up on their habits, and like, I'll pick up on people's habits now, and I'll understand why, and I'll see why, but I'll know that it's not like it's still not a norm to just be like, yeah, by the way, I struggle with this eating disorder.
Yeah.
And then when I'm struggling, I'm like, how do I tell this person? Or like, it'll be like, oh, do you want to go out for food, or do you want to have this food? And when I'm in that bad mindset where I'm like, I really don't want to eat, or I don't want this food, it's sort of like, I'll say no. Or like, when you hyperfixate on something, it's very hard to explain that to someone, especially when it's something very random, which I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah.
It is very hard when you're there and like your brain won't stop, and you just can't explain that to someone, and it's so hard for someone to understand when they're not experiencing it. So yeah, it makes relationships hard. It makes friendships hard, because sometimes you open up to someone, or like, there's a couple people that I go to uni with and I'm friends with them, but I lost, it was start of this year, I'd lost about 7-8 kilos, because I went for a patch where I really struggled with my eating, and came into the gym, and literally I hadn't had like the ability to step into the gym for like a month, because I just had been so scared to go in there. And the first thing one of them said to me is, have you lost weight? And I was like, yeah. And then I just went, oh, I've been really struggling with my eating. I was like, I just struggle with it sometimes. And they just turned around and they just went, oh, well, eat more. They're like, why don't you just eat more? And I remember that moment I was in the gym, I was just like, I'd just managed to get back in. I just managed to start.
Your chest sinks.
Eating, yeah. And then I got back in there, and the first thing someone says to me is, oh, have you lost weight? Like, you don't look as big as you did before. Or like, the worst was when he went, oh, you're looking a bit skinny. And I remember my heart just sank, and I literally I left that gym session early. I finished my exercise I was doing. I left, and I remember I told one of my friends about it, and I literally just cried on the phone to her, and then I went back to mine, and then the first thing I did was make myself be sick again. And it was like, they so innocently didn't understand what they were saying and the impact that it had, and that then set me off again for another like month. And it's like the smallest thing like that, like friendships, people don't realise.
Yeah.
But I'd said, oh yeah, I'd just been struggling with my eating, but I didn't fully say what it was. And then that was the instant reply that I was met with. And then it just makes you not want to say things. And it makes it so hard to open up about things.
Yeah. So I think that is evidence of how guys actually just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They don't know the right thing. Girls are a lot better at reading emotions, something we can all say.
Yeah.
But I think people like that who don't know, need to educate themselves.
Yeah.
But I think, as you said, it's so hard for people to understand who don't suffer from it.
Oh yeah.
Like I've had many. I've known more than you who suffers from it, and I think, in fairness, I think you were the first person who, because I've lived with you and am living with you, have actually properly made me like fully understand it.
Yeah.
Because there's probably more I can know. There's always more to know, but I think with you, you're very open about it to the point you know your TikTok is basically focused on that. You used to film yourself in the gym. You don't do much anymore, but you used to film yourself in the gym, and I think there's always two sides to every coin. You know what I mean? Like it's you can get the negative stuff, you can get the positive stuff, but it's always, I think, for my head, it's always so hard to imagine that there's the negative and the positive. But for me, whenever I have that in any aspect of my life, I just try and focus my mind on my mind and keeping my mindset correct. But the fact is that anorexia and bulimia is a mindset.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to escape the negative and positive to your mindset. Yeah. When that is your mindset.
Yeah, and then you create those bad associations with certain foods.
Yeah.
And then you can't go near them because you know it's a trigger food.
Yeah.
But it's funny how you say about the TikTok as well, because you mentioned that, and literally what I just told you, when I went into the gym and that happened, that was when I stopped filming. That was literally, I stopped filming TikToks. I haven't filmed any videos of myself lifting since. I haven't filmed.
When you said early this year, do you mean this year?
No, sorry, March last year.
Right, okay.
So March 2023. Well, that was when I was doing really well. And sort of April, May time, I had a lot of stuff go on. It was quite an emotional time. I had like a breakup. I had like a big change in friendship groups. I had a lot of change going on with like family. Like January last year, family life just got turned on its head, and like it was the start of last year was like horrendous. And then it's literally since March last year when that happened in the gym, I still now like I'm in a good mindset and I'm getting back to where I was, and it's almost a whole year later now to get back to where I was at March last year. And like I've slowly had to build my way back up, but it's like I don't have the confidence to film myself. I don't have the confidence to make these videos and things like that at the moment because of that tiny little interaction. Yeah. Because I look in the mirror and I still see the 54 kilo kid that never liked how he looked, never like...
For context, Deon is about 6'2", 6'3". He's not a small guy. No, he sat down, but...
But that's the thing, like, and like, I'm now 30 kilos heavier than when I started, but I still look in the mirror and I still see that like what people would call that skinny, lanky kid. And like that is how I will always view myself now, no matter where I get to. And like I will always have that body dysmorphia. Yeah. And it's like I try so hard now not to compare myself to other people.
You do have, I think you also can struggle to escape from it because you have very high standards for yourself, but you have very high standards for yourself. Yeah. As well as you do take other people's opinions into account. Yeah, 100%. Whether or not you vocally, express that is another thing. But I think you are hard on yourself in some ways because, I've never suffered from an eating disorder. I would struggle to go into a gym and film myself. Yeah. Just because, like, I'm not sat there thinking I'm an ugly fucker. Like, I would struggle to set up a camera and do my exercises. But that's because I probably would still be thinking, what are other people who I know going to think about this? Yeah. Like, it's fair. The fact that you managed to break down the barrier of caring about people's opinions in that aspect with having anorexia and bulimia is huge.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, I haven't broken that down. I probably haven't broken that down fully, and I don't suffer from it. Yeah. Like, some people, I get it. People just go to the gym to go to the gym. They don't want to do the whole social media thing, but the fact that you do for the reasons you do is very admirable.
Yeah, that's always been the thing as well. It's been like when people have said stuff about it and they've been like, oh, like, why do you do that? Like, oh, it's cringy, it's this, it's that. Like, I've never felt the need to explain myself because I know in my mind I'm doing it, A, for myself, and B, because I know that if it helps one person, if I get 100 people that call me cringe or take the piss out of me, but it helps change one person's life, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, I think that's very good in the way that you think that way. I don't think I could manage it, but since I think for sure anorexia and bulimia has actually, in a weird way, I don't think you fully understand this sometimes, but like it has affected a lot of your life decisions. In the sense that I might be wrong here because I'm not you, but like you do sports at uni, you're an online PT, you know, you literally help people with things like it's more exercise focused, less dieting, I think, isn't yours?
Yeah, so I basically
this isn't a promotion, I'm just this is just for you to explain.
No, well, basically I had a coach for a while and I got given an exercise plan and I got given a meal plan. And I couldn't stick to that meal plan because I'd have days where I didn't want that food. Yeah. Or like, it's like now I have a comfort meal. I have tuna, chips, sriracha and mayo every single day without fail.
It's nice.
It is. It nice. Sounds weird, but it's nice.
I'd recommend it to a lot of friends.
Yeah. But like I have that every day. That's my comfort meal now. But it's like I've done like training plans with people and like check-ins and things like that. And like I'm more focused on like the coaching aspect. And then if someone wants help with their food, I focus mainly on like the macronutrients rather than eat this. I'm like, I will basically be like, well, this is what you weigh. This is how tall you are. If you are planning on losing weight, like this is sort of the amount that you would want to eat. If you want to gain weight, this is what you want to eat. If you maintain, this is the amount you want to eat. And then I'm like, I might say, oh, carbohydrates, you need like 350 grams, protein, you need 140 grams, and then fat, you can have up to like 130 grams, something like that. But I will never say to someone, you can't eat this food. I'll never say, this is a bad food, because it's not a bad food. You just have to eat it in moderation. And it's like, if I want something that is classed as an unhealthy food, like, I'll have it, because I know that if I want it, I can have it and then I can make up for it another way. So like I might have, I don't know, if I really want a pizza for dinner, I'll have a pizza for dinner. But then I just know the next day, maybe I'll have like, instead of having like, I don't know, full fat mayo, I might have lighter than light mayo to cut down on that fat or something like that. But I just work to that rather than saying to someone, this is what you can eat and you can't have anything else. Because that doesn't work. Like, unless you are, and there are some people out there that I take my hat off to them, how they can stick to that diet and they can have exactly that food, like not gram different, like not any other food, no snack, nothing. That amazes me, people that can do that. But I think having that freedom is something that really helps me. And that's why like when I do like the coaching and I help other people out, I'm like, this is what I would recommend, and like I do like a weekly check-in. So I check in and I get people to track what they've done and they send it over to me. And then I'll ask them, I'll be like, is there anything that you want changing? Anything you struggled with? Anything that I could do to make this better? And if it's the food side of things, like I'll go through it. And if there's anything I'll see, I'll say, oh, by the way, like this is really good. Or I'll say to them like, I've seen that you did this. And I will never say to someone, oh, this is bad, like why have you done this? I'll just say to someone, oh, how come you did this on this day? And like I'll make it more into a question rather than a restriction, and then you just work around how different people work, because no two people are the same. Everyone's mind works differently. Everyone has a different relationship with food, so don't bother with any of that.
I think it's very interesting the way that you go for nutrients. You target nutrients instead of targeting specific food.
Yeah.
Because I think, 95% of diets fail. That's, surveyed across many different health organizations. Diets fail. It's the biggest failing industry in the health industry ever. You know, people just don't manage to do it. But I think it's because, you know, when you need to still be able to enjoy yourself. Like, you still need to be able to. I know people work towards a goal, but you know, it's the same way that it needs to become more of an identity than a goal.
Yeah.
Like, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to eat healthy for the next 3 weeks," you say, "I am healthy now."
Yeah.
Because if you start ingraining it in your head that you are healthy, you just start doing healthy things.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it's a lot easier to compete against a diet, because sometimes it does feel like you're almost competing about, you know, trying to keep on track and trying to keep all the same with everything. But I'd say with the fact that you do it with nutrients is better, isn't it? Because there's a lot of benefits to not limiting yourself
Yeah,
to
I
just
think
certain foods.
everyone works differently. Some people might work great with a meal plan, but to me, I work out the nutrients and what I need to achieve that goal. And I will never I will always have a long-term goal, but I also have like little interim goals. I have like little goals that I want to hit, or like I remember like when I started deadlifting, I said to myself when I started, I think I was deadlifting like 40 kilos. And I said to myself, when I hit 160, which was one of every different colour plate on each side, I said I'm going to treat myself to a proper weightlifting belt. And like it was something that I was then motivated for. And it was a little goal. And it was a goal that like I could work towards. And then when I got there, I had a reward for it. And it's like now, like I have a goal of where I want to be, but I have like little goals and like little achievements that every time I get to that little interim goal, I'm really proud of myself for just making that progress, rather than being like now like, oh, I want a 250 kilo deadlift, like that's 90 kilos from that previous goal.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm just going to constantly be like, oh, it's taking me so long to get there, I'm never going to get there. Whereas if I'm like, you know what, I want to add 10 kilos to each side now, and then I hit 180 and I'm like, this is amazing. And then I'm like, you know what, now maybe I want to hit 200, like it's a nice round number. And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll hit 220 because that's 5 plates, I believe. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mental
and it's
maths.
like goals like that. And it's like those little goals that lead up to that big one. That's with weight, but you can do that with food as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've done now, and it helps so much.
No, I'd say that's definitely something that you do extremely well, in fairness. That you actually... I mean, I think there's probably an aspect of you have dealt with a lot of other things, so it's probably made it...
Yeah.
You do cope well. I don't know how sometimes, in fairness. It's impressive beyond belief. But I think the last thing that I'd ask, because we've probably gone well over the time, is what aspect do you think you still have to work on? If any.
No, I definitely do, because I can always do better and I can always improve. I think probably now is getting myself back out there and starting to do my filming and posting things again, because that is something that I really want to do. So like that 100% I could improve on with my confidence with being able to do that. But also I think just not being afraid to share it. Like this is a big thing for me. Like this here is probably something that I'd say is one of those aspects that I want to improve on, is like actually just talking about it and being 100% honest about it, like not holding back, because if I hold back on things, then it's not my story, it's part of my story. Whereas like now, even if I think something's stupid, I know it's not, so I just say it. And I think as well, the other thing is just continuing that healthy relationship with food, like continuing to improve like how I eat, when I eat, like not purging, like things like that, just continuing to improve that. And I think that's basically it, really.
I think that's admirable that you'll be willing to say that. That is the end of this one, but I'd like to say that any people who would be watching or listening, there will be helplines from beat eating disorders, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, if anyone were to need to call anyone or want to call anyone. So they'll be in the description of the YouTube and the Spotify.